Welcome to Clean Start's perspective today. It's going to be a good one. And so first off, keep muted when you're not talking. Check out the chat function for information and links. We'll be dropping them in there routinely through this event. I would like to thank our sponsors, SMUD, Blue Tech Valley, River City Bank, and the California Mobility Center. All of them are supporting innovation in the Sacramento Valley. SMUD is our local utility working for a zero emissions goal by 2030. Blue Tech Valley is an EPIC funded program out of Fresno State's Wet Center that we work to provide support to entrepreneurs in the region. Oh, sorry. Can you watch for people coming in? River City Bank does green financing. They work on a lot of project financing in the region. So if you have a giant green clean tech project, reach out to River City Bank. And the California Mobility Center is building companies in Sacramento that are around mobility. If you have an idea, reach out to me here at Clean Start, Thomas@cleanstart.org. And I want to thank all of the donors that we have out there. You make this possible. You're a part of our validation, and thank you very much. Now, some quick housekeeping. We have some upcoming events. On the 7th, we have a virtual event, Bridging the Gap in Energy Efficient Buildings with Brainbox AI. That's artificial intelligence for managing buildings, heating and cooling systems. And on the 9th, we've had a lot of talks about team building. So on the 9th, we have Mark Hawkeridge, who has built several effective teams and startups. So we're going to have a discussion with him around building a highly effective team at each growth stage of your company. I suggest going to that because a lot of people have asked, how do I build a team? And also our upcoming in-person clean tech meetup in March. Hopefully we'll have more to announce on that about the location tomorrow. Additionally, there are community resources that you should go out there and check. Right now, there is the Big Bang competition at UC Davis. Go connect with it. It's a great competition, one of the larger competitions in the region. They connect you with resources there, and you get to pitch to some really interesting groups. Also, Startup Grind is hosting Sadell Turoski, who you can also find him on our YouTube channel. He's one of the grant gurus in the region. If you're looking for support for entrepreneurship, check out the NorCal Entrepreneurship Hub. And if you have an early stage, ideation stage clean tech idea, CalSeed is back. Go to calseed.fund so you can learn and apply for the CalSeed project. We also on a YouTube channel have a discussion with CalSeed. If you want to know more things that are going on, always check out our calendar with events. We have a lot coming up and a lot that are in the hopper. So make sure you stay on top of them. And with that, I would like to welcome Kevin Loeb, Commercial Sales Manager at Aztec Solar. Kevin, this is actually Kevin's second time talking with Clean Start. Years ago, he presented solar trees as a really innovative way to connect the community with solar and get a lot of engagement. Because you think everyone's excited about solar, but they also want to, be able to see it, be able to connect with it. And Kevin showed us how different groups around the country were able to do that. And I really wanted to invite Kevin back because he's been doing some really cool projects with solar, in solar through the company Aztec Solar. And I'm here to hear about them and all the cool work that he's doing. So I'm going to stop sharing and hand it over to Kevin.
Awesome. Thanks, Thomas. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. I'm going to pull up my screen here so we can share. Let's see if we get that here. You see that? See my screen?
Yes. It's not in presentation mode yet, though.
Yeah. Okay. So here we go from slide. Here we are. Okay. Anyway, thanks for having me.
Mode. Are you trying to get the presentation
mode? Yeah. We're not here. Let's see.
No, we still just see the slides. Oh, there we go. We'll fix it in post. I've always wanted to say that.
Okay. Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks. Yeah, a lot going on in PV, especially here in 2023. There's been some changes, not only in technologies, but there's been changes in policy, changes in building codes. And I'll just touch on those at the beginning before we get into some of the fun technology stuff that we're doing. Net energy metering for the private utilities such as PG&E, SoCal Edison, San Diego Gas and Electric, trying to change the rules. Or they're not trying, they have changed the rules. Net energy metering has gone from NEM 2 to NEM 3, which means basically that they're just going to change the way they reimburse you for your solar. So for instance, if you're collecting solar at 32 cents, back on NEM 2, they would pay you back equally dollar for dollar or cent for cent. Here now they're reducing that quite a bit, so that same number would be paid back at 8 cents. And so what it's doing is it's causing your return on investment to be elongated, but a bit more than anything, it's forcing you to get a battery. If you have a battery backup system, you're able to discharge later. You can offset those numbers, but you're adding 17 to 20 grand on your solar purchase, which also extends your ROI. But the reason they're doing it is because we have issues with our grid. It's antiquated, and it kind of aligns also with what Title 24 is doing. But right now in the new NEM, basically, you have until April 14th to have a complete and accurate internet connection, a single line drawing that's approved, the solar systems disclosure complete, and then a signed protection guide, consumer protection guide. So all these things have to get in if you want to stay in the NEM 2 status. Interesting, farmers and multifamily housing projects, they're typically exempt because they are aggregating meters or they're sharing credits with their tenants in multifamily, and so they do not adhere to the new rules. So that's nice because it's a huge impact on farmers who need that true up because it's a seasonal energy usage, offsetting pumps and things like that. Multifamily housing, you're also talking about the underserved, right? And people who don't usually get a chance to even have solar. And so they're trying to reduce some of the stresses it is to incorporate solar in those situations. As I said about Title 24, that's a California building code, and they're making it mandatory for all new commercial buildings, more than one floor that have over 70% irradiance, to have solar and mandatory battery backups. So new rules be last year, your other rules, it was 15% of your available roof space. Now it's all based on the conditioned air space, conditioned floor space, whatever is being air conditioned floor space within the building, it's a percentage of that. Some rules, regulations, anyway. I don't want to get too far in the minutia on that. If people want more information, I can send you everything on the new rules, and you can have the formulas, you can know how to calculate it, etc. But it works like no sedative can. So that's some of the new things that are happening with this. Once again, they're aligned. They're trying to get us off the grid, using the grid as our storage, because that's typically what solar people do. Our net energy metering, our meter spinning forward and backwards, positive and negative, and we are using the grid as our battery right now, and they're trying to get us to stop doing that because it's hard enough to bring on all the new solar on the utility scale, and then to be bringing in all this CNI and residential, it's too much for the grid. So they're trying to offset that, and they're working in concert. What we try to do, we've been in solar now in this California since 1980, and we've always found ourselves trying to be at the front edge of technology, because technology changes a lot. Now, PV solar is a fairly mature technology. It gets better in its efficiency from a cell level, but the surrounding, the balance of systems that help solar work is getting smarter. And that's where we see a lot of the new benefits for addressing with the new rules even. So they kind of go in hand. And one of them being battery energy storage solutions. That is one of the biggest issues out there. typically, for the most part, there's only been two forms of architecture that are most common. You're either your AC coupled or your DC coupled. And so those would be your, and you would always need a wall space, considerable wall space, or you would need a slab outside that's enclosed to put these battery banks in. And, that's always been an issue. There's a good solution for residential. There's a good solution for utility. There's not a real good solution for the C&I market. It's all over the board. And typically the soft costs will outweigh the cost of the batteries because there's so much to do to put together commercial and C&I because of the variables. So there's been some new things that have come out, but anyway, the new designs, a new way of thinking about it to offset some of these soft costs and the traditional way of doing battery storage. And it comes within a group called YADA. And disruptive technology, I call it, it's similar to the microinverters when they first came out and how they disrupted the inverter market. We were an early adopter of that, and rightfully so. We bought into the technology, and the same with this company. This company has been through various rounds of funding. They have some of the biggest money in the industry behind them, and they have a very good sound product. And so what we're looking at now is a new way of architecture. We're going to actually store energy right at the module. Okay, so there's no long runs, there's no soft costs involved. Each one of these little boxes is 1,000-watt storage. So if you need a 10,000 kWh storage system, you put those behind 10 modules. It's pretty simple. You don't have all the soft costs you have to worry about. Basically what it does, it works with this YADA microinverter, and the microinverter can be in place, and then a year later you can come in and put the battery pack in there. It's because the new rules really for multifamily housing is that you have PV and you are battery ready. Okay, so especially if it's multifamily housing, they're not going to force them if you are battery ready. So our strategy is to lead with this, and you're going to now, or you're going to later add this battery. Now, the battery weighs about 50 pounds-ish, 40 pounds, and it serves as a ballast. You're able to reduce some of the pavers on a ballasted system. The solar leaf, it's once again, each one's 1,000 watts. It's able to safely store. It's got very NEMA 6 insulation factors. You can send these things out to outer space and you wouldn't have any moisture or any change in temperature. So they're very, very smart technology being utilized with their microinverters. And here's a little display of what it looks like. You have your microinverter, your module, your solar leaf, your inverter. There's a gateway that allows you to access that data and monitor it on the daily basis if there's any issues. But it's very smart, and it really has reduced the cost quite a bit. And it helps you prepare for the future. You don't have to go battery today, and yet you're ready for it. So we like that. We think it's a real smart solution. Here's a sample of a California winery that looked at just doing solar only versus solar with the storage. And you can just see the quicker payback, the ability to offset your demand charges, and just have a higher return on investment, the higher savings. It's just smart way of approaching the battery solar storage solution. And that's on the batteries. Now, there is a software out there. If you didn't want batteries or couldn't afford batteries, or so let's say you're primarily an air conditioning using warehouse office building with lights, AC, computers. The software actually learns your modalities in your buildings. It has a weather component, and it's able to tell the systems when to slow down, when to shut down. Basically, your systems, you learn the machines, you have real-time control signals, and then it forecasts. So it's able to If there's a cloud coming over, it slows down your printers and anything high modality for the 10 minutes. It's truly demand charge is all about the highest 15 minutes of energy you used the month before. So that demand is always being challenged. And this is one way to mitigate it without having to throw expensive batteries in. It's a 1/100th of the cost. And yet only certain building profiles are going to benefit from this. But smart software out there helping companies that don't want to go solar, can't go solar for whatever reason, but they have demand charge issues. So this has been really an effective tool for a lot of these schools, really. A lot of schools are able to use these. This shows a small office in Orange County, just looking at the reduction in spikes. They're able to reduce and keep their demand charges well below the threshold. You can see before it was higher, now afterwards it's lower. It's just an example, small sample. But they've been in business now for about 8 years, and they have quite a few different successful projects. And you go to their website at extensibleenergy.com, and you will see all the different case studies that they have done in the past. Now we're moving into agriculture. Now I just spent the last week at the World Ag Expo in Tulare last week, and it was quite interesting. 97,000 people showed up over the 3 days. I've seen just about anything you could see in sustainability or in agriculture. And we were one of the talks of the show because we were showing something new, something the farmers actually could benefit with. When you look at traditional creative farming, boy, you really need to look at agrivoltaics and how they will interact with your crop, how they interact with your farm, how they size up the form factors and the effects. And so when we started looking at traditional solar on fields, you see this kind of application. You see, this is from looking up at it. Now we've got, in that alongside your traditional, put your, ground mount at 180 degrees due south, 30-degree tilt. Now you're seeing things like floating solar that sit over reservoirs that not only use land that was unusable, but you're stopping, you're at least mitigating some of the evaporation that goes on. There's various sizes and shapes. The more you can cover a field, the better off you'll be. So these other ones that are not covering a lot, they don't do a lot for evaporation, but they do allow you to have, you don't have to use crop yield, you don't have to use valuable acreage. And that's the big complaint with these guys, valuable acreage. So we introduced at this show solar fencing. It's a destructive technology out of Germany. They've got over 50 megawatts of this stuff installed over there, and we've seen the benefits of it. And really what you're looking to do is provide the solar on a bifacial module, so it's going to harvest on both sides, and then line it up north-south so you get a good east-west. And when you do that, you have more of a butterfly arch as opposed to the traditional bell curve. You're going to have this kind of butterfly curve, but you get about 10% more than traditional. You have that slight dip when it's overhead, but where we have them lined up right next to each other and upon a year basis, the fence does anywhere from 7 to 10% better. So a lot of it depends on where you line on the equator and how you position, but I'm talking about having a fence like this right next to a solar field that's pointed due south at a 25-degree tilt. That's optimum. This does better. And it makes sense. You're getting a harvest earlier in the morning, which you don't traditionally, and at a certain time of the day, you lose on a traditional. This has a much longer collection. It dips a little bit directly overhead, which is counterintuitive for most solar people, and yet the proof is in the pudding. And more importantly, the farmer doesn't have to give up valuable acreage. He can still offset his energy. It's no longer one or the other. And that's typically the problem with these farmers. They're being asked, you want to offset your energy? Give up some of that valuable land. So anyway, when you look at these things, you're looking at it's easy to mount. We're talking about fence posts, right? We're not driving a bunch of metal in the ground. Fence posts every 4 feet, depending on the size of the module. The ones you're looking at there are in vertical or in portrait, or you can do them in landscape. We like the portrait out in the fields on the just because if there's any blockage, that's a split module and it doesn't affect the top part of it. So there's reasons why we do it one way or the other. The higher efficiency in the winters, you don't have to worry about snow, cattle scratching up on it. Typically what you have with when you have it like this, you'll have your cattle come up and start scratching on those corners and knock them out of whack. And that's always an issue. And so we've done them in 3 or 4 different dairy farms now, where they're trying to separate the heifers from the steers, et cetera, using them as barriers. Anyway, it's a very smart, and it costs about 1/3 of your traditional. Once again, we minimize the metal, and it's really a very smart system once you have applied it. This is a Sun. This is a solar fence in German. Zahn is fence in German. And this is the first solar fence being installed in the United States. And this is at a little vineyard up in the Placerville area, Somerset. Not very big, but it was a proof of concept. And now we have more projects coming here right now we've already got them lined up, and we have our sorters running. So this was the big hit at the Ag Show. No one had seen this before. The farmers could not believe that there was another solution out there. They thought they'd seen everything. They've talked to every solar guy in the counties, in the whole state. They've all knocked on their doors. They're finally seeing something new. They were very impressed. One of the last technologies I want to talk to you about, another disruptive one, is along the same lines as the fence, is that it's just a different way of doing it. This group called Earthos, they're laying it flat on the ground, right? It goes flat on the ground, no metal. You're using a lot less cable, there's no trenching at all, or a lot less, just over to your inverters. It's a smart system that it's hurricane proof, or you really don't have to really worry about much. Gets dirty, and then that little robot comes out every night and cleans it. Even better is that the people from Earthos, they guarantee your productivity. So if there's a problem anywhere along this array or anything with that robot, they come and fix it, and they take care of it. This is, without a doubt, the lowest cost of energy on the market. We're talking 87 cents a watt installed. It is, without question, the best bang for your buck in the solar market. Earthos, as I said before, they offer engineering, the technology, and the services, which provide a guaranteed performance for 20 years. And then you can see this is just a little bit of a close-up of these. This is a project. There's about 5 megawatts in California right now. These are in the Chowchilla area, Modesto area, primarily Central Valley farmers. And then the very last thing I want to talk about, which we don't do, which I thought was really cool, though, was it's a 3D printer that runs on solar that prints out chewable smooth food. And this is just another way where solar's helping the farmers, and they're looking at elderly and people who have trouble chewing, and they're printing out soft chewable food. I just thought that was cool. Thought that add to it. But truly, we're delivering this, the Earthos system, the fencing system, the floating solar. These are all the things that we offer, along with your traditional roof mounts, ground mounts, carports, etc. And I think that's about all from my slides here, Thomas. Do you have any questions?
We've got plenty of questions, and I'm going to let, I guess, Gary take it away with the first question. If you want to stop sharing your screen, Kevin, that'd be helpful.
Ready.
Kevin, really some great creative ideas there. I had no idea on the vertical installation, it could actually produce more kilowatt hours per day.
Yeah.
So that's sort of a revelation. Are there any problems with conflicts with the farming equipment? I mean, I see the cows rubbing up next to them, and if you're putting it in a field, a vineyard or something like that, it seems like it's a sure thing that somebody's going to back into that panel and bust it. Have you had any experience with that?
Well, yeah, sure, it's happened. And that's up to the farmer itself, right? The farmer and his care, and you try to stay at least a half a meter away from the piles when you're going through there. That one vineyard, we put him in a place where it was very paltry at the very crown of his hill. And that was probably the most paltry of all of his vines. So we were able to put it right there. But when you're typically trying to do this with harvesters and other things out there that are much bigger, moving at a faster pace, that's always going to be an issue. We use some pretty big piles to support this. They're designed to go in that ground and withstand 150-mile-an-hour winds. Well, they can't really take on a tractor if you're going to hit it head on. So yes, there are issues with it. Cones, except cones, stay around them, things, but it is a farmer beware application. It's a trade-off for not having to give up your acreage.
Yeah, well, something they'll have to learn to cope with. Another question, you mentioned carports. And I mean, there was a period, but it seems to have ended about 5 years ago, where everybody was going out and trying to contract with parking lots to put up solar carports. That's a lot of steel. A lot of pylons go in, and I've just seen that market disappear. Is there any innovation there, or is it still a hot market? My impression could be wrong.
Yeah, it's still a pretty hot market. We're doing a lot of multifamily housing, and almost every one of them has solar carport associated with it. Due to the fact that roof space doesn't have a lot of area for them to put solar on, they have a Title 24 they have to meet, and the best place to put that is on a carport afterwards. And so we'll either do it where the carport, the modules are the roof, or they'll just put them on raised seam metal roofs on carports. So it's a variety. We're doing quite a few of them. I'd say right now, of the 14 jobs we have going on in process right now, 8 of them are carports. So it's still pretty lucrative and pretty active.
And on the battery pack, you said you could use it as ballast. Did I hear you correctly that the battery pack, the 1,000-watt battery pack, is 40 pounds?
Yeah, I think 42 pounds was the spec on that.
So
typically you would put 50 pounds of paver, so you would have a split paver along with one of those inside a tray.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So what batteries do you have in there? That's a lot for 1,000 watts of weight. Is it not a lithium ion battery?
It's lithium ion, but the componentry with it and everything else, it weighs. That the encasing, it's hefty. So there's less circuitry in it and everything else. It weighs for sure.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I'm sure we have some other questions, and I'll assume that Peter Mackin has a question because he's got his hand up.
Actually, I have a couple of comments / questions. So, I think that fence, the vertical fence, that's a brilliant idea. But the bifacial panel, that is more expensive than the standard panel, right? And you have to have.
You'd be surprised. I mean, because the abundance of panels on the market, I mean, we're not paying more than 50 cents a watt for those bifacial modules, and the ones we're buying are made here in Sacramento. So it's nice to be, there's extra incentives for local buying domestic product now through the new Inflation Reduction Act. Right. And having a module made here in Northern California is very helpful to meet that goal.
So is that at Solar for America?
Yes.
Yeah, we talked about the incentives of the IIJA and the Inflation Reduction Act actually there at our last meetup.
Yeah.
But I had a question around. So are you seeing projects where most these farms are trying to offset their energy cost? Or you see any of them that are they're saying I can get another revenue stream here that's, I guess, significant?
Yeah, you know, the PG&E and those have changed the rules. They're not going to pay you for over unless you're going to meet their renewable portfolio standard and put in a multi-megawatt system on your farm. You're not getting a long-term PPA with the utility anymore. Those days are over, right? So now it's you're really, for the farmer, how do I offset the costs of running those pumps all year? You know, so that's their big dilemma today.
Okay. Peter, did you have more
So,
questions? Or
Yeah, I did. I'm just curious. You're talking about the weight of the. I mean, 42 pounds actually seems reasonable because it's 1,000. It's 1,000 watt, basically 1 kilowatt hour, correct?
Right.
And
Correct.
yeah, I mean, I've hefted those 2 kilowatt battery things that you have to wheel around. They're easily 42 pounds. So yeah, I mean, it seems, and you got to put it in a metal case and stuff. So, I mean, that seems reasonable. But I'm just curious. My solar system doesn't have ballast. Why do you have to put ballast on? Is it because of commercial system and wind lift or?
No, I mean, a lot of our commercial applications are flat roofs, and we don't want to penetrate that TPO unless it's brand new. We'll set stanchions along with the roofer. That way we're not making penetrations.
Oh,
and
so it's
causing-
kind of just sitting on the roof then rather than being
It's on there, and then
screwed
when
down.
you always
Okay.
have to have a few strategic impact points, but you don't have to penetrate. You can weld those or iron those, weld those to the TPO surface.
Okay.
And,
Okay. That makes sense. That makes
jurisdiction.
sense. One last quick question. On the flat earth mounted panels,
Yes.
you said 70% less cable. I'm trying to figure out how that would be. I mean, if you had normal fixed panels at an angle, I mean, they're still pretty close together. I mean, I could see a reduction in cable, but 70%, is that really true? 70%?
Yeah, because I mean, let's face it, if you're doing a ground mount out on a field, usually gonna have a 6 foot at minimum space in between your rows. That way you can just get through and clean them. So, but typically you're seeing 8 foot is most normal application for ground mount row spacing. When you're laying them all down right next to each other, right, the cabling doesn't take much to interconnect everything.
Okay.
So then are those panels specifically designed for it to be laid down flat? So connectors are?
So what they do is they even in the frame, they actually have holes drilled through the frame, and they have steel cable that goes and connects each one together, both on the horizontal and the vertical.
Oh, okay. I see. Yeah. So then basically you can align the connectors so they're close rather than just all the way down the string. Yeah. Okay.
That's correct. Then they have
Makes
concrete
sense.
blocks about 18 inches that go around the perimeter that keeps varmints from digging into it and getting underneath.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
So what would be the kind of ideal use case for the kind of the flat ones? I mean, is it just simply, cheaper than having the angled ones? Because I've seen a lot of more installations go where they want to have, solar tracking to increase the capacity factor. Is it something where you can do it cheap enough that it's better than increasing the capacity factor, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's always about, the cost of energy, right? When it's all said and done. And when you eliminate all of that metal, right? Once all that metal is out, there's no motors, there's nothing moving, maintenance is minimized. You got that robot going out every night and that's it. You really have the lowest cost of energy solution. And when you're below 90 cents a watt, turnkey installed, where traditionally everything is at least twice or three times, $3 a watt almost on those trackers. So yeah, sure, they produce 15% more, but you're talking, almost, 2/3 more cost than this system. So in this system, it's got about 5 megawatts in the state. They just signed and they're under construction now on a 110 megawatt system in Texas. So this is really designed to be a utility play. They will do 0.5 megawatt systems for local farmers, but the play on that's truly a utility play.
Interesting. Okay. We got a question from Mark in the audience. I can read it. He's talking about, so he works with a company that plans to use composite structures over both parking and driveway. Bosch competitive column was the patent number there. And the other question you have is what happens to over the fence rule for under a megawatt? I'm not familiar with that. So if you're not, we can ask Mark some more.
Well, I mean, over a megawatt, there's different rules, right? You're now on a different, it's a different plan. It's not your typical CNI. Anything over megawatt, there's apprenticeship and labor issues. Now there's new fees that are associated with systems of that size, and it's a different way that it's paid back. So it's a different ballgame when you talk about over a megawatt. Once again, you have to have a labor agreement that assures that you're going to have a certain amount of apprentices to journeymen, and then it goes down this list of based on system sizes on how much it pays back over time. So it's kind of complicated, and we try to stay away from most of those projects. We try to stay at a megawatt or under, and for the most part we do.
Have you seen any also from Mark, have you seen any farmers looking at aggregating that into some sort of grid or some distributed energy resource, where a bunch of farmers say like, okay, let's balance the system with each other? Okay.
So the rules are aggregating a meter. First of all, you have to have multiple meters on one plot or contiguous properties. You can't have some guy in his and between you. It could be a road, as long as it's you and your properties are contiguous. Then you're able to have the one ag meter as your lead, and then it could be residents, could be farmhouses, doesn't matter. You can put as many, I've done up to 20 on one aggregated meter. All right, so you put one big array out there, and all of the other 19 meters are also affected by that one array. Okay, and that's the way the aggregation works. To do that with other people, now you start getting into community solar applications, and there's a whole new set of rules for that, right? And then that's just a little, they don't let farmers get together and do their own thing. You have to go now under community solar rules on that.
Yeah, I know Sunrun, Sonova, and Spruce Power all are, I think, looking at that. And
Right.
I don't think I've heard any of them talk about agriculture at all, though.
No, that's ag is a different play. It's not beneficial for the ag to jump into a community.
Okay. So purchasing contracts, they're changing. I'm hearing a lot of background noise from purchasing contracts are changing through with net metering 3. And Mark, I think, is trying to clarify what he means, referring to the PPO issue, purchasing contract continuous is the off rule over the fence.
What I'm saying is I'll just explain. So a little while ago, he talked about you can't get the contracts, if you're under X amount. Maybe it was 2 megawatts. So the over the fence rule and that question about aggregating were all related to fighting that, and also asked about politics, and the structure thing. That was a captive column structure, which is an ultra lightweight, high strength structural geometry. And I worked with the inventor for 10 years. So that's what we're planning to use with solar that's mounted above trucking fleets and bus fleets, so it'd be mounted high, so it has to be extra strong. And so instead of a lot of steel, we'd use that superior technology.
And have you done any? Do you have any in the field?
No. There are actually. I worked with the inventor. We tried to get, I was trying to help him commercialize it. He was basically suppressed, but he did a lot of prototypes. And so one of them is the aircraft warning beacon at the Plymouth County Airport. That's a tilt down 20-foot high captive column. But I did a lot of design work with it, so I'm planning to use that when we get our solar thin film product and our battery product out. And I would like to talk to you about those at more length separately.
Absolutely. No
Yeah, we could share out Do you want to share your contact information in the chat real quick, Kevin?
Sure. Pretty easy. Kevin at Aztec Solar.
I can remember. I can .com or dot.
.com.
Yeah, I'm on safe driving mode, so I can't see that. Could you say it again?
Kevin, Kevin at aztecsolar.com. That's AZTEC. Solar.com.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Absolutely.
All right, Gary, did you want to maybe have a question to wrap it up? You're muted. In 3 years.
Yeah, now it's echoing. A lot of good ideas out of that. And on Title 24, you've talked about Title 24 for commercial and industrial. And I think there's also Title 24 that requires all new residential structures to have solar and even be battery capable. Is that correct, or am I misunderstanding the rules?
Are you muted, Kevin? Because there's background noise. So. Oh,
Still on mute.
I'm sorry. I was trying to unmute you and I muted you.
Okay. Now quit touching my mute. Okay. Yeah. No, it's a bottom line is the new residentials have been under mandate already. Now, granted that they have 70% of radiance is not in a forest or something. So new track housing has to have solar. Outside of track housing, custom housing, the rules are a bit ambiguous. But so if it's track housing, yes. But residential, custom residential, no.
Okay. Interesting. Well, big markets there. Aztec has been in the market a long time. How old is the company again?
1980.
Yeah, it was one of the first.
It is, yeah. Ed Murray, our president, he's the president of California Solar and Storage Association. He used to be the president of CalSIA. He's also the secretary of NABCEP, which is the North American Board of Energy Practitioners. So he's probably one of the most politically connected people in this entire industry. Something's happening in DC, Ed's on a plane and he's out there.
Yeah,
so he's really, he's a value.
He's been an asset to the entire market. Now, is Aztec still pretty much serving a footprint of California, or have you branched out into other states?
Well, we've been California, Nevada, and Arizona. They have some projects that led us down there that were worth the risk, so we do some things that, very few people do. And so we have an expertise that only a few people they only want to contract with a few of us across the country on these.
Right.
So we're setting ourselves up in a pretty strategic, nicely strategic position.
So the vertical panels, are you seeing a big pipeline of projects coming in on that, or are people still waiting to see how that works out and they're skeptical?
So right now we have 4 projects that we are designing on right now. And I would say of those 4, I think 3 of them will go through. 2 of them are a winery. One's a winery in Sonoma, one's a winery in Napa, owned by the same people under NDA. I can't discuss who they are at this point. And then there's 2 large military applications that were in design that are looking at perimeter fencing and energy offsets.
Great. So how many employees does Aztec have now?
Oh, let's see, we're up to 88 now. I mean, we're small. We're a mom and pop, and we also do the hot water, right? So right now in Title 24, it's either photovoltaics or it's solar hot water.
Right.
And then we also do pool. So we handle it all on commercial and on residential for both. We're doing a lot of solar hot water projects here and locally on these multifamily housing projects, a lot of them. So it's a faster ROI, and it meets their Title 24. You're not stuck doing PV. You can offset with another source of renewable energy, such as hot water, and the ROI much faster.
Well, I'm sure it gives you a boost to the business when the recent rates have been $2.30 a therm for natural
Right.
gas.
Yeah, and we're one of the few that does all three disciplines. So, I mean, and I mean to brag on this. I haven't made a sales call in 3 years. My phone never stops ringing. It's crazy. Lovely thing to have. You know, it's great. During COVID, also, when things slowed down, I got on every contractor's portal and became a certified approved subcontractor. So now when all these multifamily housing things are coming, they're just sending them to us. They don't even, I mean, we're like a proposal mill, feels like sometimes. That's all we do. But, you know, we like it. It's fun. It's worth it. You know?
Well, congratulations to the whole team on the success since 1980.
Yeah, thank you very much. We appreciate it. We, you know, Ed's a great guy. We love what we do.
Yeah, no, I can easily see that. So, thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Yeah, sure, Gary.
Back to you, Thomas.
Appreciate you guys having me.
Thank you for joining us today, Kevin. Of course, I want to thank our sponsors, our major sponsors, and our overall sponsors. Also encourage people to come and join later to check out Brainbox AI on the 7th and Mark Hawkridge talking about teams on the 9th. There'll be good discussions. Have someone who's built more teams answer the questions that we've gotten around team building in the recent past. So look forward to seeing you all there. And thank you for attending. Connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, all over the place. This is going to be saved on YouTube. So if you want to go there and save it and re-listen to it, you can always check there, and it'll also be on our LinkedIn. Thank you to everyone out there that's watching, and have a good day.
Tell your friends, have them pull up these videos after the fact. They're all pretty popular.